People of Earth, we have come to upgrade your cosmic consciousness. DNA activation ready. In 3, 2, 1.
Hi, welcome to Q&A on Breakthrough Leadership. I'm Craig Anderson.
And I'm Lou Quinto.
Lou, are you ready for another Q&A on Breakthrough Leadership First today?
You know, it's hard to believe that even after almost 3 years of doing this podcast, we can still have a first.
It is. We had our first interview about a year and a half ago, and today is our first repeat interview where we are bringing back Donna Markus, COO of Kopka Pincus Dolan.
It only took 120 episodes before we brought somebody back.
I know. Well, you know.
Yeah.
We just have to come up with these ideas as they come up.
Longevity. No, but no, this is a good repeat because we're being good journalists by following through on a story to find out what the ending was. How's that?
Or at least the next chapter, because I don't think.
I like that. The next chapter.
The next chapter. When we first talked to Donna, we were having a great conversation about how they were managing at their firm, shifting into this through COVID and through the workshop that was, or the workshop, through the workplace that was going remote and how they were dealing with all that. We thought, you know, hey, we've been through a lot over the last year. Things have maybe settled a little bit. What's going on now? So we thought it'd be a great idea to bring Donna back to say, hey, from now, a year later, where are you guys at with the hybrid work environment? And I'm very excited to talk to her about it.
This is almost like a "Where Are They Now" episode.
that'll be our new segment. Where are they?
Yeah, where are they now? All right, let's bring on Donna Markus.
Okay, well, welcome, Donna, back to Q&A on Breakthrough Leadership. You are our first repeat interview, and we're so excited to have you back with us today.
Well, thanks for having me join again.
As we were saying before we started taping, you are one of our most popular interviews on our channel, on all our different channels. And I think that what we talked about with you about what's going on with remote work and how that's impacting your firm, Kopka Pincus Dolan, is just resonating with so many people. So now that it's been about a year, we thought, what a great opportunity to revisit because so much has changed. So Lou and I wanted to get back with you today and just get a sense for how have things progressed. We've learned so much and so many things we didn't see a year ago. So what's been going on? So, you know, I think the first question is just what are the big high-level learnings you have come across over the last 12 months since we last spoke on building your team in this remote environment?
I have one word for you: intentional. Everything is intentional, right? I mean, connecting with people is intentional. Communicating is intentional. Supervision, mentorship, all of it takes a lot of intention. No longer are you walking by somebody and just having a quick conversation or seeing somebody in the, getting coffee or whatever and having a conversation. You have to really be intentional in everything you do. And so as leaders, we have to really think about how do we keep everybody together. And so that, again, it's really being intentional in everything you do.
Awesome.
Yeah. And if I remember, Donna, when we first interviewed you, we were only like 3 months into COVID. And you were sharing the discussions of you were tasked with, okay, you need to make this happen. And you were looking down the road and all you saw was clouds and fog, basically. And you didn't know where to turn, what to do. And you pulled people together to make things happen on almost if this happens, then this is what we're going to do, because that's the only way all of us could really operate. So let me ask this question. Now that we're 2 years into this, tell me about it. I don't want to hear about your side of the story first. I want to hear about the employees. I want to hear about the members of the firm, all of the administrators, the paralegals, the attorneys. What are they thinking and feeling now compared to right at the beginning of what was going on during COVID?
In the beginning, it was scary, right? It was, is there going to be a job for me? Is there going to, how are we going to do this technology wise?
Right.
How am I going to be able to work without my printer? All those things were, up in the air. And now my employees or everybody in the firm, they don't really want to go back to necessarily the old normal. this is their new normal. They want to maintain like working how they feel comfortable. So whether that's at home, whether that's coming in a day or two a week or whatever that is, that's what they want to do. And I would say it propelled us in the future like nothing else could have technology wise.
Right.
Our people use our systems better. They understand it. They're embracing it. I used to be quote unquote paper light prior to COVID
Right.
because I couldn't say paperless. That really scared people. And it was like the acknowledgement that we would still be using paper to some degree. And now I think we can actually take it to the next level of paperless.
Wow.
That's where we're getting to because people aren't printing or needing to print. So I think, and then just the way we use Zoom and teleconferencing, I mean, it's like second nature. Everybody sets up a meeting. Before it was like, I need to get the instructions out and go, step by step. And now we are all just so versed in it. It's just second nature to jump on a Zoom.
Right, right. I'm sure you still have the problems like most people do, where it's like, okay, Craig, you need to take it off mute because we can't hear you.
Yes. Less and less, more people are very aware of that. But yes,
Right.
definitely in the beginning, all of a sudden you're like, wow, can you mute yourself with the, dogs barking in the background or whatever? And yeah, now it's not that's common now. Like everybody just kind of knows.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's interesting. Just today, as we're taping this, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that people are going back to the movies, they're going back to restaurants, they're going back out. But the one thing that's not changing is people aren't going back to the office. Then the article was really talking about people really like the freedom. You've got offices in some big cities, Donna, and you're dealing with traffic and just time, the hour commute each way every day and trying to find lunch and all those things. What are you hearing from your employees on the way they want to work going forward? You mentioned earlier, some are hybrid, but do they want to just keep this working from home in place for the most part?
So I just recently did a survey asking everybody, how we can support them better, what technologies do they need, and how they want to work in the future today and going to. And people are saying, I like working from home, or some people are saying, I want to come into the office. And some are saying, I'm not coming in unless you make me. So we have no rule about anybody coming in
Right.
or staying home. We want everybody to feel comfortable. We have found that we're effective. And if everybody can work this way, then there's no reason to force anybody to come in or work differently. We found this works. And so I feel like that is the best of both worlds, what they're comfortable with, what they want to do. As long as the job gets done, there's no reason why we have to micromanage it.
Okay. Now that brings up a question when you mentioned that, Donna, that I want to ask you about, because I've heard the argument on the other side of the coin, which is people need to be in the office because that's where training happens. And I don't mean formal classroom training. I mean, mentoring and things that look over my shoulder, watch me do this as I do it. And that's not available right now. That camaraderie that goes on in the office. And Craig and I have joked in the past that how people have just started to get back together and they're all like excited to see each other. And I think I made mention of, there are some people who you may be excited to see them because you haven't seen them in a year, but when you were with them every day, you couldn't stand to be around them. And now this has made them more palatable when it comes to that. So my question is, what has it done to that social culture that so many people are saying that is the downside of the remote workforce? If we continue this way, we're going to lose that. Are you finding that?
Well, I mean, I really go back to intention. And I do believe that if you don't think about it, then yes, you're going to. So we have had in-person like get-togethers outside during the summertime, having picnics or getting together,
Right.
Because we do recognize that we miss each other, and there's just some people that don't cross your paths. You know what I mean? That you see in the office typically before, but now they're not in your direct team or whatnot. So we have recognized that. We try to keep that as a focal point. We're going to try to do two times a year, getting together,
Right.
parties or whatever it is. We also, though, have done office meetings but via Zoom, so anybody can come and join. We have done happy hours at the end of the day, all through Zoom. And so you still see people, you still keep connection. And we make that, like I said, intentional, where we really want to meet with people. We really want to keep the mentorship. When you talk about that, that has been a huge focus for us, because we recognize that before, when you could bounce into somebody's office and just ask a question,
Right.
that's really hard. That's a lot harder to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes with new people, we've hired a lot of new people during COVID, and they have never met people inside our organization, or who does what, or you know what I mean? So that has
Yeah.
had to be something that we've had to work around. So we first started talking about the value of mentorship, because a lot of people think it's a lot of work to mentor. And I
Right.
think I go back to, how did they learn, and how we have to make sure that when somebody is, pairing people up with a mentor, it's very checking in with them, and making sure that they feel comfortable and that they have somebody to reach out to, is again all intention.
Okay, good. Craig, if I can just follow up real quick on what Donna just said, I want to ask a question. How has it changed your onboarding? You talked about bringing on all these new employees, and how has it affected, and changed the way that you typically, before COVID, did your onboarding process for new people?
Well, I mean, we've found that you can do the same things via Zoom as you can in person.
Okay,
We have, we set them up with our legal operation manager in each one of our locations. They would meet with them either physically, or they could do it by Zoom, because they would go through the same things. I don't
sure.
think it's changed much, except for, again, how we introduce them to the offices in the firm is really important, and making them feel welcomed, and like they could have they know people. We invite them to all the different meetings and involve them right away, because otherwise they're on an island, and it's just really hard to get to know the firm.
Yeah.
And we've initially, when COVID hit, I brought on a new a CFO, and I was so preoccupied with getting everybody working, that I'm like, okay, we'll get to you. Because and she struggled, because I was, we're focused on everything else going on in the firm, that she had a harder time learning everybody and getting to know all the facets of the firm. And then it was like, oh gosh, I didn't really put the attention to that. So that was a
Yeah.
learning lesson, right, to make
Right.
sure that people know who's who, and get them acclimated to the firm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is, I'm sure that has been a challenge, just trying to get, especially you were already geographically diverse, and now you're really geographically diverse with everybody working from home. So the, one of the things we've talked about a bit is the Great Resignation, and specific to this, how are you through this remote environment able to keep people engaged and find different ways to motivate people? We hear through Great Resignation that people are leaving for different cultures. They're leaving for a couple of bucks more in salary. But with your focus so much on creating a unique and distinct culture, how has that advantaged you in this remote environment during this time?
Yeah. What we have found is that, we've been doing some really fun things. We have book clubs going on. We do mental health breaks, and we just call it that. And it'll take, we have 15 minutes where we'll do something like, we'll bring we'll like have a theme. Like today, we're going to talk about what makes you laugh, and everybody will bring one thing that makes everybody laugh. And we have 15 minutes of that. Or, like I said, we do a lot of virtual, coffee hours, or which just is a coffee break, whether it's a half hour, 20 minutes, just come in and say hi. Um, we do a lot of that, and I think those little touch points, those all the time, makes people feel connected. And our culture is that of, we've expanded our benefits to really help everybody, and to really think about this time right now, which shows that we care, right? Like I think about, we have employee assistant programs, right? We expanded that, so there's 8 free sessions where they can, virtually or in person, meet with them and deal with all the different anxiety, depression, grief, anything that would be that people are going through right now that maybe wasn't prevalent before COVID. So we did that. We continued our tutoring program that I mentioned our last time, where we just found that so many people enjoy having that resource, and their kids are thriving on it. So we kept those benefits going. We added more vacation time, because what we realized is people have a hard time not working. There's no separation when you're working at home, right? Sometimes you may stop and do some laundry, and then you're back working, and then before you know it, you're into the evening, and you're working all different times. So we added vacation time, one, because there was more people getting sick. So we want to make sure people felt that they could take that time off to be healthy, and
Right.
also to take time away from being always on, and not recognizing the start and stop to their day. I think that has been that I've had a challenge with myself, just to know, okay, now it's family time, because before the drive did that, right? I would drive to work time, drive home, shut it down. There isn't really that now. Now I have to, it's very like, okay, my kids are home. I'm going to stop right now. So I think that has been the challenge, I think, of this as well.
Yeah. What was it, Craig? That guy who would wake up in the morning, he'd get ready for work, he'd leave the house, he'd walk around the block, and when he came back to the house, he started working. And then when he got done, he would leave the house again, walk around the block again, and come home, and he was home. So he had to have that truly tangible. This is how I'm starting my workday and how I'm ending my workday.
That is so true. Like I said, that we're creatures of habit. And so now it's trying to create a new habit. And that's why I think hybrid's here to stay long term. I mean, people created a new habit. They like it. Right. And to some degree, this will be with us, I think, forever.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Does the law firm see this as it's not going to be just our temporary solution till we get back to truly normal, which, as you said early on, we're back in the new normal. This is, or as I like to call it, the new abnormal. Okay. And so let me ask you some questions on that. As you see this going forward, there are some issues that different companies have expressed, and I want to see how the law firm is handling this. The first one is, I like to call it equal participation, regardless of where they are located. Now, you've got, if I remember correctly, 8 firms in 5 different states. Is that correct? Or did I get?
We have 11 locations in 5 states.
11 locations. Okay. All right. So you could have situations where you've got some people who are all sitting in a conference room, and then Bob and Cindy are coming in remote to the conference. And our old habits, because you said we are creatures of habit, is sometimes it's easy to forget that there are people from the outside that are in the room, because they may either be just on the phone, and even if they're on if they're there virtually, we're looking at real people, and that's where the conversation goes. Has the firm thought about that, and what are they doing to try to remind everybody that it is equal participation, regardless of if you're in the room or not in the room? So that's my first question.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think every one of our conference rooms, the TV is on and ready to go, right? Okay. And it's like in the center, right? Everybody's kind of surrounded around it. So I think everybody right there recognizes there's more in the room. Okay. The other thing is the leader. When you are leading those meetings, you have to be aware and call on people and make sure that they participate, so that you don't lose somebody. Also, we always kind of make people put their cameras on, unfortunately, for those that don't want to get ready in the day. We have seen some, crazy hairdos or whatever, but we just say, hey, look, this is how we see and keep connected. We really demand, like, we made sure everybody has cameras and that they work, and we want to see you. So that makes them present in the room, and that's important.
All right. So, all right. In that same vein, my second question on this topic is digital collaboration. Has the firm gone to a formal platform like a Slack or Microsoft Teams where they're doing their collaboration, or have you just told people, here's Zoom or whatever Zoom-like account that you want to use, you guys make it work?
So that whole embracing technology is huge, and we prior to COVID, we're on Skype, and we are still on Skype, but we are transitioning into Teams.
Right.
Because Skype is kind of out, is not the newest technology, right? So Teams is the one that we're working towards. Right. As you talk about information governments, that's what we're kind of working on right now. Okay. But Teams is probably the way we're going to be going. Skype is the way we are currently. And again, we hop on Zooms left and right. Everybody's got an account. We are constantly Zooming. So. Yeah.
Okay. And the last one on that particular one, and you've answered it, but I'm going to ask you again. It's that I like to refer to it as digital exhaustion. And you talked about having, these periods of 15 minutes where, okay, we're going to take a mental, a break or whatever is that something that's going to be one of the guardrails to help people moving forward from that digital exhaustion?
Yeah, and then we are also recognizing that teams are Zooming sometimes, or people are on Zoom all day long. So we try to have days where, you own your calendar, protect yourself, have some breaks in between things. We've even talked about having a no Zoom Friday or whatever, just to give everybody a break from that. But
I
I
love
think
that. A no Zoom Friday, like Jeans Friday. We've gone to no Zoom Friday.
Like just to give people a break, or if they don't really want to dress up or, have their hair done, they can, but I just really think it's important that we recognize that there is Zoom fatigue, as they call it, and that people just need to have those breaks, or work time. We were so worried about making sure that we're connecting and talking all the time that we just need some true work time. And so we want to build that into our calendars. And so that's, again, intentional. So
okay. Good. All right, Craig, I had 3 questions. I'll let you jump in now.
Yeah, I love that word, intentional. I think Lou and I always pick a word for the year, and that was mine 3 years ago.
Yeah, the very first year we did the podcast, that was his word, intentional. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're so right. The other question I had, Donna, was you've got obviously not only people at different, you've got attorneys, paralegals, assistants, different things in the firm, but you've got a lot of generational difference too. How are you seeing the generational difference manifest in acceptance and desire for these hybrid situations? Is there any discernible pattern of who wants to be in the office, who doesn't, anything like that as you're kind of looking out?
That's a great question. I have to say, some of the people that I would expect to be like, I want to be in person and back to normal. Initially that was a big thing. 6 months into, that was the big thing. And now I think as everybody has, and whether they got sick with COVID or whether they had, they've all kind of embraced this. And yeah, they go in when they want to. And so because we don't have any requirements on people, I think that helps. We do say, hey, like if you're getting ready for a trial or whatever, or you're getting ready for something big and you ask your team to come in, everybody is willing to come in, and they're flexible. And as long as we keep that flexibility, I think it's okay. And again, people want to see each other. Having those times where we gather is important as well. Do I see a big gap? No, sometimes I think some of the people I would think that want to be home, they want to be at the office. And so, no, I don't think it's necessarily generational so much. I think it's just really like if you're more social, or if you tend to, you need that more really, people contact, I think that's really what drives it. And if they're feeling isolated, then they just tend to go in more.
Yeah.
But I can say our offices, there's some offices that have a lot more people in it and some offices that just aren't really occupied. So it really depends. I'm not seeing it as generational necessarily.
No, and I wondered what especially this far in, if it really was, because even the slow adopters are probably seeing all the benefits of it now. And there's really, I would imagine now that the world's opened up a little bit more, people can get some of that social piece that they were lacking completely at the beginning of this. So that may be people are finding other outlets for it. And they can get there earlier now because they don't have to drive back from downtown Chicago or whatever. So, okay, that's great. That's great.
So yeah. Now I'm assuming at the beginning of this, Donna, there was that, and I'll stick with the generational differences question that Craig asked. Craig and I found in working with our clients that it was the older generations, the boomers, and what veterans were left, that that attitude was, if I can't see my employees, how do I know that they're working? And I'm sure that to some extent that existed at the law firm when COVID hit, and now people were working from home. Has that gone away with those people who may have been the, as Craig likes to say, the get off my lawn, you kids, type of person who's just, that's the way we did it, and that's the way you're going to do it too. Has that gone away?
I think you always have to, manage it and manage. The workload and what people are getting done. It's a couple of things. One, we made it known early on that we have tools to make sure that everybody is, working when they're working,
right.
That we don't use it unless we think there's some reason why. And And I think that helped right away know that they're, that we can check in on them.
And those tools are a software application that tells
Yeah,
us
like,
how
so
long
I have a
yeah,
kind of report how many times they touch, our programs, and,
right,
and you should be in our case management system like all day long when you're working. I mean, it's just kind of everything's there.
right.
So we have tools like that, and that helps. But we also have team meetings where our whole philosophy is set up on a team. Everybody's kind of in a team, and they meet regularly. They are also, you don't want to come to the meeting and say, I didn't do any of it.
Yeah,
You're held accountable to your tasks,
yeah,
and we check in. We just check in often. I mean, what we have found too is, those, you're using your technology. Like I have reports, and you never have to worry about, we have, you want to communicate with your client often, so we have reports that show how often people communicate, and all of a sudden somebody falls off a little bit. We check in. Sometimes we find that they got really sick and they just never told anybody. So
right.
that has been probably a challenge for us, is just to, like, not everybody wants to say, hey, I am struggling.
Yeah.
They kind of just struggle quietly. So we have to do a lot of reach out and to find out what's going on and how can we help you and how can we support you.
Okay.
The thing about COVID, it's all about empathy.
Yeah.
Everybody's got different things they're dealing with, whether it is depression or they're dealing with little kids on them all day long, or they're really, really sick. And so we try to, we've been doing DoorDash gift cards when people are struggling and checking in with them, and, grocery delivery because some people are just, our whole family is sick. We really just believe that we have to have a lot of empathy and understanding,
Right.
and it pays back dividends because everybody comes back and they want to work hard for the firm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You touched on something that my next question is going to deal with, and that is getting into the law firm's database.
Mhm.
What changes? Because obviously now with a law firm, you've got very sensitive and personal information out there. What changes over the last 2 years has the firm made to allow easy access to all of the law firm's information, particularly for those people when they're working remote? So cybersecurity.
Yeah, we have a huge focus on that as a firm, and have even before COVID. We actually have everybody do monthly trainings through Know Before, so they have to sit through those often. Um, and then what we do though is that we right now, when we first went home, we were just trying to get people up and working. So whatever device they had to log into our system was kind of what we did at first, because thought it was going to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month, right? Who knew we would be sitting at this point? Well, now we're going to a firm issued laptop to everybody. We have put autopilot on it so we can make sure that we can control where the data goes. We can wipe laptops if something happens to them, and then also multi-factor authentication. So we have put all the tools in place to make sure that we protect our clients as well as information, and something happens, we can control it. That has been, I mean, we've always had to we've been up in our game every year, but I mean, it's been probably more focused than ever to make sure that we are safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, that's important. Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Great.
And I wonder, do you have a sense, and this is probably my last question, Donna, is just how do you feel overall your team? Have they become more productive over the course of this? Have you seen people are just generally more productive because they are working from home? Or is it pretty much where you were before?
I don't know. I would say it ebbs and flows, right? I think that you always have to keep those checks in on people because sometimes it's mentally wearing. So I think, pre-COVID, of course, we were at a different level than we are today, because there's so much more coming at us. Like, again, we had a lot of people sick this year. And so when you say, are you measuring productivity? It's hard to say because, all of a sudden you'll have somebody down for 2 weeks or a month or whatever. So that's harder. I found that people have figured out how to do this and do this well. So I don't see, if they were good before, they're still good now. Like people don't really take advantage. But as far as productivity, I really think it depends on their home situation and what they're currently dealing with. I had my kids all sent home for e-learning for a couple of weeks. Well, that slows everybody. Like that slows me down, because now my kids, I got to make sure they're sitting in front of their computer, not playing on the piano or in the kitchen. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think it all depends on the situation. But I think we're doing the best we can in the situation. And I think that as we just kind of accept this as our new norm, I think we're always going to be dealing with somewhat of a pandemic. I think we're going to learn how to adapt to it, and it's just going to be our new norm. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I really think it depends on what everyone's dealing with at that given time.
I think it points out that it's a pretty complicated question.
Yeah, it
with
is.
a lot
Yes.
of things bearing on it.
Yes. And my last question, and this is just curiosity. As you know, there's the big controversy that states are going through, or countries going through, individual businesses are going through. Vaccinated and boosted to get into the office, wear the mask, don't wear the mask. What has the law firm come down as, this is our policy when you come into the office?
Well, we've always had a lot of safeguards when it comes into the office. We have a QR form so that we know who's in the office, so we can do contact tracing, even though, that is getting, I don't know, some schools and some areas, they're not doing contact tracing, so I don't know, but we still have them do that, so we know that they're in the office. We have everybody wear masks in public places. We, but your own office or your own space is where you can take your mask off so that you're comfortable.
Right.
As far as vaccines go, we were following, any mandates that were being imposed on us. We did collect vaccine cards, but we have not made it mandatory. We do highly encourage it, but we are not making it mandatory at this point. Anything could change. We just really are listening to our people, listening to what, what we need to do health-wise for everybody. And we're not making any hard and fast rules right now unless we have to.
Okay. All right. And everybody's been pretty good so far with all of that. So.
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning we had to remind people, and now it's just part of, it's just like it's just kind of part of the way it is now. I mean, they just adjusted, and wearing a mask may not be as big of a deal as it was before. So it gets easier.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I have friends who say, I will never get on another plane again unless I'm wearing a mask, regardless of what's going on. And it's like, okay, that's, I can take that.
I know. I'll never forget, prior to COVID, when I saw somebody with a mask, I'm like, I got questions. Why? And now I'm like, if they're not wearing one, I'm like,
Yeah, you have more questions.
Right. So it's so funny how that's changed or evolved,
Oh yeah, no. When we were told to wear masks, one of the first thing I always laughed about was, I remember stores and around Halloween that they would post signs, "Do not wear your mask in here," and now people are, don't come in unless you're wearing a mask, and so
I know, like celebrities look like they're about to rob the place now, and now we're like, if you see somebody's full face.
Yeah, to walk into a bank with a mask, it's almost, it's like, wait a minute, maybe I should be carrying a gun and asking for, give me all your money.
Right.
All right.
But
well,
anyway,
Lou, what's your takeaway today?
My key takeaway, as we've been talking, is I believe, Donna, you and the firm are definite examples that all business should look at, and that is continue to watch, continue to learn, figure out what you're not doing well, make those changes immediately to be as agile as possible. There's my word of the year, Craig. And I like the examples that you gave of, we didn't know what we were doing. We were in a room with no lights, and you were feeling for the switch. And one by one, as you felt the switches, you just turned them on, and you began to say, okay, this is what makes us work. And so, my key takeaway is that companies need to follow your example, Donna, and they truly need to say, how do we move forward? What's working? What's not working? Let's fix what's not working. So I like that.
Very good. All right. Well, for me, I think, I've been one of these guys who thought, we've swung way over here in the pendulum with all this stuff, and we're going to swim back pretty close to where we were. But I think I'm wrong. I don't think we're ever going back to, on the whole, the 40, 60 hour in the office work week. I think
I'm glad we're recording this. Craig actually said, I may be wrong. I think that's the first time you've used those words together since we've done this podcast, or since I've known you.
Well, I'm growing.
Which is 13 years almost.
Yeah, that's right.
I may be wrong. Remember that, folks.
May. I didn't say was.
Yeah. Always conditional. So
always conditional. Donna, how about you? What was your key takeaway today?
I've been thinking a lot about this, but I think what has been the key to success is technology, and everybody embracing it, whether they were slow adopters. They definitely are hungry for more. So I would say that technology has been the key to success and the reason why we're being successful in this hybrid world.
Perfect.
Good.
Awesome. Well, Donna, thank you so much for being, again, our first repeat guest, and really all the great work that you have done there to really be a leader in how to get this remote work set up, especially in the professional services world. So
Yeah,
thanks
no,
so much
Donna,
for joining us.
I appreciate you joining us, particularly since we thrust you into the public spotlight with the first time that you were on, and people calling you saying, "Hey, I saw you on that podcast. I want to work for the firm." That's good. So Craig, maybe you and I should start getting a little bit of like a recruiting commission here.
Yeah, kickback or commission, right? Yeah.
Yeah. If they stay for 6 months, we get 10% of their first year.
We get 10% of their salary. Absolutely. That's great. Well, Donna, thanks for joining us again. And I liked the update on what's going on in the law firm. And I hope that people will go back and revisit the first time that we interviewed you, and then also listen to this one. And you can see not only the changes that the law firm has made, but Donna, the confidence you have gained over the last 2 years. And I think you probably got the battle wounds to show where you got that confidence from.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. Like I said, it's always a pleasure.
All right. Thank you, Donna.
See ya.
See ya.
Well, Craig, it was great to see Donna again. Donna definitely looks more confident than she did in our first interview. In our first interview, she was still shell-shocked from everything that was changing and what are we doing? And she had her plan in place, but not knowing would it work, would it not work? And this time she looked much more confident, and she should be, because she was truly successful in everything she did.
And I think the one through point on all that is that, she used the word a lot, how intentional they were and how thoughtful they were from day one on this process, and how that throughout that evolution, that's been kind of the keystone for them of being very intentional about what they're doing.
And it's her ongoing word too, is everything is intentional. And so your word of the year when we first started our podcast, see,
it lives on, Lou.
Look at that. See, you were making history before history was made.
Like I do. Almost every
like you do. So, all right. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Q&A on Breakthrough Leadership as we revisited our conversation with Donna Markus, talking about her endeavors with the law firm to be able to truly develop a culture that is now embracing a hybrid workplace. So if you like today's interview, please share it, review it, rate us on all of your major podcast platforms. And we are also available on most of your social media platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So until next Thursday, please be the best leader you can be. I'm Lou Quinto.
And I'm Craig Anderson.